I caught my husband cheating with my sister. What I did next shocked everyone. They say betrayal never comes from your enemies. I learned that the hard way. It was supposed to be a normal evening. I had left work early, excited to surprise my husband, Mark. I even stopped by his favorite bakery to pick up the dessert he loved. It never crossed my mind that I was walking into a nightmare. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed something strange. My sister's car parked a few houses down. At first, I thought nothing of it. Jenna visited sometimes, though she never bothered to call ahead. Then I saw the living room lights were off. Odd. Mark always kept them on when he was home. My stomach tightened, but I shook off the feeling. I wasn't the paranoid type. I stepped inside, expecting to hear the sound of the TV or Mark's usual greeting. Instead, silence. That's when I heard voices, muffled, whispering, coming from the hallway. My heart pounded as I moved closer. The door to our bedroom was slightly open, and when I peeked inside, my entire world collapsed. There they were, Mark and Jenna, talking in hushed tones, their heads too close together, their expressions too guilty. At first I froze. My mind refused to process what I was seeing. My husband, my own sister, the two people I trusted most, sneaking around behind my back. But the shock didn't last long, because anger replaced it. I didn't burst in. I didn't scream. I simply walked away. They thought they were getting away with this. They had no idea what was coming. The moment I stepped out of the house, I knew I had two choices: confront them immediately, or make them regret ever betraying me. I chose the second. Instead of breaking down, I spent the next few days planning my revenge. Mark and Jenna had no idea that I had seen them. They carried on like nothing had happened, laughing in my face, thinking they were fooling me. I let them believe it. But behind the scenes, I was dismantling everything they took for granted. Step 1. The finances. Mark had no idea how much control I had over our money. I handled the bills, the bank accounts, and the investments. So, I quietly transferred every penny I had into an account under my name only. When he finally checked, he'd find himself broke. Step 2. The house. Mark thought he co-owned it. Wrong. When we bought it, I had made sure my name was the only one on the deed. He had never questioned it. Now I was putting it up for sale. He'd be homeless before he even knew what hit him. Step 3. The humiliation. Jenna had built her life on looking like the perfect daughter, the caring sister, the person who could do no wrong. Time to change that. I collected evidence, messages, photos, anything I could find. Then I waited for the perfect moment. A family gathering. A room full of people who believed Jenna was an angel. And when the time was right, I was going to let the truth out in a way no one would ever forget. By the time I was finished, they wouldn't just lose me, they would lose everything. The hardest part was acting normal. Every morning, I still kissed Mark on the cheek before he left for work. I still sent Jenna casual texts, pretending I hadn't uncovered the truth. It made me sick to my stomach. But I needed time to put everything in place. If they suspected anything, my plan would fall apart. Meanwhile, I was making moves behind the scenes. First, I met with my lawyer. Since Mark had no clue the house was in my name alone, there was nothing stopping me from kicking him out. I filed the paperwork to put it on the market, and within days, I had a serious buyer lined up. Mark's days under my roof were numbered. Next, I made sure he'd feel it financially. He relied on our shared bank account for everything. So, while he was at work, I drained it completely. I left just enough for him to think it was an issue with the bank. But soon enough, he'd find out there was nothing left for him. Jenna was next. Unlike Mark, she cared more about her reputation than money. Her entire life revolved around what people thought of her. So, I dug into her messages, her social media accounts, and even found an old email from a coworker that showed her real personality at work and how rude she really was. With everything set, all I had to do was wait for the perfect moment. And that moment was coming sooner than they thought. The night of my parents' anniversary dinner, I was ready. The entire family was there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even some close friends. Jenna had no idea what was coming. She greeted me like nothing was wrong, flashing the same fake smile she had always used to get her way. Mark kissed me on the cheek, playing the role of the devoted husband. It was almost funny. Halfway through dinner, I stood up and cleared my throat. I'd like to make a toast. Everyone turned to me, smiling, expecting something sentimental, Jenna and Mark included. I raised my glass. To family, to trust, to the people who stand by us, who never betray us, and who prove that loyalty means more than anything. I let my eyes land on Jenna and Mark. People like that deserve the world. But unfortunately, not everyone is like that. A few people chuckled, unsure where I was going with this. Jenna shifted in her seat, her smile faltering. Mark looked down at his drink. I pulled out my phone, You know, I wasn't sure if I wanted to bring this up tonight, but since we're all here, I think it's the perfect time. I turned the screen toward the room, and then I hit play. The messages, the photos, the proof of every lie, every secret, every betrayal. It was all there for everyone to see. Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped their fork. My mother covered her mouth in shock. Jenna's face turned pale. Mark looked like he wanted to disappear. And me? I just smiled. Because this was only the beginning. Silence filled the room. Thick. Unbearable. Jenna's face turned bright red. Her mouth opening and closing like she was trying to come up with a lie, an excuse, anything to save herself. But there was no escaping this. Everyone had seen the proof. My father was the first to speak. His voice was low, controlled, but filled with quiet rage. Jenna, is this true? Jenna let out a nervous laugh. This isn't what it looks like. I tilted my head, pretending to think. Oh, so you weren't sneaking around with my husband? Her mouth snapped shut. Mark finally found his voice. We never meant to hurt you, he mumbled. Eyes glued to the table, I let out a sharp laugh. Never meant to hurt me? I turned to the guests, gesturing to my phone. That's funny, because these messages seem to say otherwise. Jenna glared at me, her usual confidence cracking. You're making a scene. I shrugged. Good. You deserve it. My mother, who had been quiet up until now, placed her napkin on the table and exhaled sharply. I can't believe this. She looked at Jenna, disappointment clear in her eyes. Your own sister, Jenna. How could you? Jenna's hands clenched into fists. It's not like her marriage was perfect anyway. A few gasps echoed around the room. There it was. The deflection. I smiled, calm and unshaken. You're right. It wasn't perfect. But that didn't give you the right to sneak around behind my back. Mark looked around, his face filled with panic. He could feel it. The walls closing in. He turned to me, desperation in his voice. We can fix this. I raised an eyebrow. We? I took a step forward, lowering my voice so only he and Jenna could hear. You don't understand, do you? You lost Mark. Both of you. Jenna looked at me then, her eyes narrowing. She knew I wasn't finished. And she was right, because I had saved the best part for last. I reached into my bag, pulling out a folder, a thick one. Mark's face went pale the moment he saw it. Since we're all being honest tonight, let's keep going. I flipped open the folder and pulled out the first document. Divorce papers, already signed, filed this morning. Mark's eyes widened. What? I handed him a copy. You didn't actually think I was going to stay married to you, did you? Jenna smirked, crossing her arms. Well, that's a relief. At least you're handling this like an adult. I turned to her, my grin widening. Oh, don't worry. I didn't forget about you. Jenna frowned. What are you talking about? I pulled out the next document. You know that fancy condo you just moved into? The one you've been bragging about? I let the paper drop onto the table in front of her. It's in my name. Jenna's face drained of color. No, that's not possible. Oh, but it is. I leaned in, dropping my voice so only she could hear. You always thought you were smarter than me. That I was too nice, too weak to fight back. But you underestimated me, Jenna. Big mistake. She flipped through the document, her hands trembling. It was all there. Proof that the lease was in my name. Proof that I had been paying for it under the guise of a gift. And now, I had full control. I grabbed my purse and turned to leave, but not before tossing one last sentence over my shoulder. You have 30 days to get out. Jenna sat there, speechless. Mark just stared at the divorce papers, realizing his entire life had just collapsed in a matter of minutes. And me, I walked out of that room with my head held high, because I wasn't the one who lost everything. They were. Walking out of that dinner felt like shedding a heavy weight I didn't even realize I had been carrying. For the first time in a long time, I was free. But the night wasn't over yet. I had a few more things to take care of. First stop, my bank. Mark had no idea, but I had already removed his name from our joint account. The only reason he hadn't noticed yet was because I left just enough money in there to keep him from getting suspicious. But now it was time to finish the job. I walked into the bank, showed them my paperwork, and within minutes, the account was officially mine. Every last dollar belonged to me. Mark wouldn't see a single cent. After that, I headed to Jenna's condo. Well, technically, my condo. I didn't even knock. I had the keys. The moment I stepped inside, I could tell she had already been here since the dinner. The place was a mess. Drawers half open, clothes scattered everywhere. She was panicking. I found her sitting on the couch, her phone in her hands, her face flushed with frustration. When she saw me, she scowled. You have no right to do this. I tossed the lease agreement onto the coffee table. I have every right. You just didn't bother to read the fine print. She stood up, crossing her arms. You're being petty. I laughed. No, Jenna. Petty would have been exposing you in a group chat instead of at dinner in front of our entire family. Petty would have been throwing your stuff onto the street tonight instead of giving you 30 days. Trust me, I'm being generous. Her nostrils flared. I don't need your stupid apartment. I'll find another place. I shrugged. Good. That'll save me the trouble of evicting you. Her jaw clenched, but she didn't argue. She knew I had won. I turned to leave, but before I walked out, I paused at the door. One last thing. She didn't look at me. What? I smirked. You always said I was weak, that I'd never stand up for myself. I tilted my head. Guess you were wrong. And with that, I walked out, leaving her to sit in the mess she had made. The next morning, Mark finally realized what had happened. My phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, messages, voicemails, all from him. I didn't bother answering, but I listened to one of his messages just for the satisfaction of hearing the panic in his voice. What the hell, my name? The bank account is empty. And why is the house listed for sale? You can't do this. Oh, but I could. And I did. Later that afternoon, he showed up at my office, looking disheveled and desperate. For once, he didn't have that smug confidence. I met him outside, keeping my voice even. You have 5 minutes. His eyes flashed with frustration. Why are you doing this? We can fix things. I raised an eyebrow. Fix things? You cheated on me with my sister, Mark. He had the nerve to sigh, like this was all some minor misunderstanding. Look, it was a mistake, all right? But what you're doing, it's cruel. I smiled. No, Mark. What's cruel is lying to someone who loves you. What's cruel is sneaking around behind their back and thinking they'll never find out. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You don't get to play the victim here. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. I took that as my cue to end things. I hope you and Jenna are happy. You deserve each other. And with that, I walked away. I wasn't the fool. I wasn't the one left picking up the pieces. That was their problem now, not mine. A week passed, and the fallout from my revenge was glorious. Mark was completely unraveling. After losing access to the bank account, he started scrambling, begging friends for money, making pathetic excuses at work. Word spread quickly that he was struggling, and soon, his carefully crafted image of being a successful and reliable man crumbled. Jenna wasn't doing much better. Her perfect reputation ruined. Family members were furious. Friends distanced themselves. Our parents, who had always defended her in the past, didn't even try this time. She had embarrassed them. I didn't reach out to her. I didn't need to. Every day, I got updates without even trying. People loved to gossip, and I was more than happy to listen. But the best part, Jenna and Mark were turning on each other. Apparently, when Jenna realized Mark had nothing to offer, no money, no house, no stability, she started pulling away. And Mark, he was furious. They had betrayed me together. But now that the consequences were catching up, they didn't even have each other's backs. One afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. Jenna, I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. I laughed out loud. She was blaming me. I typed back a single response. Me. No, Jenna. You ruined everything. I just made sure you faced the consequences. I never got a reply. One evening, as I was packing up my things at work, my phone rang. It was my mom. I hesitated before answering. I hadn't talked to her much since the dinner. Part of me worried she'd tell me I went too far, that I should have handled things differently. But when I picked up, her voice was calm. You okay, sweetheart? I smiled, surprised by how good it felt to hear those words. Yeah, I think I am. She sighed. I still can't believe Jenna did this to you. I leaned back in my chair. Neither can I, but I'm done trying to understand it. Mom was quiet for a moment. Then she said, she's been calling me. She wants to talk to you. I felt my stomach tighten. Jenna wanted to talk. After everything, I exhaled. I have nothing to say to her. Mom didn't argue. I don't blame you. She made her choices. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. And I made mine. For so long, I had put others first. I had ignored red flags, given second chances, let people walk over me because I thought that's what being a good person meant. Not anymore. Jenna and Mark were finally feeling the weight of their own choices. And me, I was moving on. Another month passed, and my life had never felt lighter. Mark was officially out of the house. The sale went through smoothly, and I used the money to move into a beautiful apartment in the city, a place that was truly mine, without any memories of betrayal clinging to the walls. Mark, on the other hand, was living out of a cheap motel, struggling to find a permanent place. His financial situation was worse than I thought. No savings, no credit, and no one willing to help him. As for Jenna, she had tried everything to get back into the family's good graces. She called our parents over and over, hoping they would take her side, but they were still furious with her. Mom had made it clear, "You burned that bridge, Jenna. Don't expect us to rebuild it for you." She even showed up at my office one afternoon, unannounced. When I saw her standing there, looking uncomfortable, I crossed my arms and waited for her to speak. "I messed up," she admitted. I tilted my head. "You sure did." She sighed, rubbing her arms. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I don't want things to be like this forever." I studied her, waiting for the usual excuses, but there were none. For the first time, Jenna looked genuinely ashamed. I took a deep breath. "You're right, Jenna. You don't deserve my forgiveness, and I don't owe you anything. But I'm not going to hold on to this forever either." She nodded slowly. "So what does that mean?" I shrugged. "It means I'm moving on, with or without you." She looked like she wanted to say more, but she didn't. She knew this was her consequence, to be left behind. Without another word, I walked past her, leaving her to deal with the mess she created. 6 months later, my divorce was finalized. I walked out of the courthouse feeling free. No more Mark, no more Jenna, no more looking over my shoulder, wondering if I was being lied to. That evening, I met up with my closest friends to celebrate. As I sat there, sipping my green tea, laughing at something Kayla said, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for karma to strike. They did wrong to me. I had already won. Mark and Jenna had been exposed for who they really were. Their actions had cost them everything: family, respect, stability. Meanwhile, I had rebuilt my life on my own terms. As the night went on, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it. "Mark, I'm sorry for everything." I stared at the screen for a moment before deleting the message. No response. No second chances. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for closure. I created my own, and this time, I walked away without looking back.